talk about the people that has really influenced the life of Buddha or Siddhartha. I mean, the book really begins with his birth and the circumstances around that time. And let's talk about the main character, like his father himself and his mother. Tell us more about them.
I feel like it's very interesting. We start at the beginning because even before someone is born, you come into this sort of path in life, which is, laid out for you often because of the family you're born into, the place or the circumstances that you're born into. So it was very, very similar with Siddharth. It was the circumstances were such that the stakes were very high for him. There had been, it had been years since they had been trying, Shuddhodana and Mahamaya and then Prajapati had been trying for a son, an heir to the Shakyan throne. And I think it was about, well, some sources say about 8, 10 years before they finally had a son. So when this son was born, there was automatically the weight of the entire empire that was on his shoulders, and he was supposed to inevitably be this ruler. And everything that his father, and then by relation his mother did for him growing up was keeping in mind that yes, one day this boy will have to wear the crown, one day this boy will have to lead these people. So they did everything that they could in their power to make sure that that happened. And yes, they made a lot of choices which in hindsight proved to actually be the reason that Siddharth one day left his life in the palace, a very, well, wouldn't say a comfortable life, but a life in which you don't have to brave the elements, wonder about where food is coming from, wonder what you're even doing out in the forest in the biting cold. So uh, it almost was like a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts, that by trying to avoid something, Shuddhodana ensured it happened. And there was a huge, well, there was expectation, there were the circumstances, there was the constant need for also for Shuddhodana to, have him as part of the administration. What we don't know very often when we read about Siddhartha or when we hear about him is that he did, even before the time he left the palace and after he returned, he played an active part in the socio-political lives. It's not like he was just a reclusive hermit, the way he's often perceived. So his mother, it's a fascinating tale in itself, I would say, because he was raised by Prajapati, who was not actually his biological mother. Prajapati was his aunt. So King Shuddhodana was married to Mahamaya as well as her sister, Prajapati. Of course, in the modern context, you would be like, what is this even? But those were different times with different societal rules. So Prajapati raised Siddhartha as if, he was her own son. That was the promise that Prajapati had made to Mahamaya when she
Hmm.
died shortly after giving birth to Siddhartha. So much so that when Prajapati had her own child, she actually gave the child away to Loshika, who was the handmaid of Prajapati, saying that if I have my biological son and this son of mine, Siddhartha, who I am supposed to raise, as if they were both born of me, I will not be able to do justice to this. I
Hmm.
will not be able to fulfill my sister's dying prophecy. So there was an immense amount of sacrifice of, trying to sort of tailor Siddharth's upbringing just to make sure that he would be the best ruler that he could for the sake of the empire and the people and the dynasty.
Right. Tell us more about his middle part of his life, like when he met his wife Yashodhara, and at a very later stage he meets someone called Sujata, for about whom we get very little evidence and references. Tell us more about these women, how they, let's say, influenced, or what roles did they play in Siddhartha's journey?
Interesting. It's a very lovely tale actually of Yashodhara and the role that she played, because often, it is a very valid criticism of, people have against wife and child. How can you do that? It is just not right. Um, what people don't also realize is that, and it was a new fact that I also discovered while researching for the book, is that Yashodhara it wasn't a case of either or for Siddharth. Yashodhara was very supportive of the fact that, yes, if Siddharth has these questions from life and the universe,
You should.
he must find these answers. So the whole story about how the tale that we all know from school, that he goes and he sees these four sights: a sick man, a dying man, a hungry man. So one part of the tale that we know is actually that his wife was there with him.
Mm.
So there was an entire part of the kingdom that Siddharth wasn't privy
Exposed
to.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So his wife, firstly, Yashodhara had a huge problem with this, and something that she had communicated to Prajapati herself, saying that, very politely, obviously, she would have said that, this is not the how have you raised Siddharth if he doesn't know about sickness and death, which are parts of life?
Mm.
So Yashodhara was very, very crucial to Siddharth being able to find these answers, to have his journey, in fact. And Sujata later, of course, came into his life years later. And sorry, if I may come back to Yashodhara's part of the tale as well. A very beautiful part of the story of Siddhartha and Yashodhara was Siddhartha discovering his feelings of love, attraction,
Mm.
desire for Yashodhara, and this boy who's curious about everything in his life. His discovering these feelings that he can't really reason, he can't really, logically justify in terms
Mm.
of right wrong. It just is something he feels. So that discovery of love as well was very, very crucial to Siddharth's understanding of human beings and emotion. And coming back to Sujata, how he had met Sujata years later. Bear in mind, this is almost 8 years into Siddharth's journey. After he's left the palace, he's crossed that Anoma river, he's given up everything, he's lived as a bhikkhu, he's on the verge of dying of starvation. And this
Yes.
is when this little girl from the village of Uruvela comes to him and says, "Of what use is this, this pig-headed, well, foolhardy attitude towards,
Mm.
overcoming your body? You're not using your body as an instrument
Mm.
to find these answers. You're just abusing it for
Correct.
no real reason." So understanding the middle path or the balance between these things was very, very crucial. I think so. Both these women have played such an important part in Siddharth's understanding of the universe, essentially, and understanding what the right approach is towards your spiritual journey or your path, whatever that may be. So it's very, very crucial. Amongst others, of course, they're very, very interesting stories.
And I guess also some of his co-travelers, some of his gurus have really impacted or given him a different perspective. In fact, at some point, some of his gurus have really considered that you have kind of surpassed our knowledge, and now we should consider you our guru rather than the other way around. So I guess those people had also like big impact in his journey into becoming a Buddha.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone who Siddharth met along the way, it was a case of joining the dots.
Dots,
He, with
exactly.
every experience, he learned something new. And yes, there were times when Udaka Ramaputta and Kondana, one of his childhood, the gurus from his childhood, actually said, it is a case of the student becoming the teacher,
Yeah.
whereas you have seen things in your meditative quests that I haven't ever seen.
Right.
So I need to know, I need to learn from you. And yes, there was a lot of positive and reinforcement that came from there. But let's not also forget that there was also a time in which the people he was with, the five bhikkhus who were his greatest supporters,
Also
actually abandoned him
turned against him. Yeah.
and said, this is not the way you. The time that he actually stopped trying to starve himself and
Right.
build his body so that it doesn't need nutrition or water or any kind of sustenance. And when he ate after that on Sujata's insistence, understanding that this is new knowledge that I have, that I need to realign myself. I need to reorient myself, rather, my approach. His disciples and his
They
what's the
did not
best?
agree. They did not.
They did not agree. They abandoned him. They just said that no, this is not right. You betrayed us.
Correct.
And it was interesting because Siddharth said, but this is my conviction. I need to follow this path to the end.
Hmm.
And when he emerged from that quest of his with enlightenment, with these answers that he had been seeking all these years, then they also came to follow that, okay, yes, perhaps we were also wrong. So yes, his in both ways, constructive as well as
Challenging his
so
questions.
constructive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, since we're talking about these people, I guess this brings us to one of the core lessons of Buddhism, which is the middle path, where we talk about santulan and balance. And do you feel at some point it is only when you go to the extreme that you realize the importance of the middle or the moderate? Because I think a lot of us live our lives like that unless you kind of experience the extreme hunger or extreme amount of consumption, you would not, let's say, appreciate moderation or a middle path. Do you think this is one of the most relevant lessons, or why do you think the lessons that we know from Buddha are, why do you think they're still relevant for us, like after so many thousands of years?
My
When we
God,
have
that's
so many more indulgences than probably Siddhartha had, right? I mean, he just
yeah,
abandoned food. Here we are trying to, let's say, abandon social media for a day or something.
yeah.
How do you think it's still relevant for us?
I must say it's a very beautiful question that you've asked, and it is something that, I feel like I don't know. I don't know if I'm qualified enough to give you a definite answer. But yeah, you often find, I mean, I remember when I was growing up, my parents always said, when you work and when you earn money, that's when you will understand the value of money. You always say you only understand the value of something when it's gone or when you don't have it. So I don't know. There is maybe some people work in that way that you can only value things once they're gone or once they truly value them, once they
Mm,
are missing in your life, or perhaps you realize the importance of eating healthy when you wake up one day with cholesterol through the roof, and
correct.
it's maybe some people work like that. And then again, I've seen some people who have an inherent sense of balance, of
Mm,
automatically knowing when to stop, when to say no,
mm,
what to do at these points in time. And I envy those people because I'm not one of them. I live in the extremes very often. um but yeah, it's ultimately everybody has their own sort of journey to discovering their place in the universe.
mm,
There is this concept that we have of just trying to live in harmony with our surroundings, with nature, with our environment. And everybody has their own way of finding it,
mm.
and that balance which we have. As a human race, I often question what we're doing in terms of, balance with nature and the
Nature.
environment.
That's true.
But these are, I mean, even if we don't arrive, I feel like if we don't arrive at these answers, it's very important for us to keep asking these questions,
True.
because asking them in a way keeps us on our toes, keeps us thinking, makes us act more mindfully. at every step. And I feel like the relevance of it today, with looking ultimately, the biggest takeaway from all of Siddharth's teachings was Apo Deepo Bhava, which is be your own light. Everybody has that inner voice which tells them what to do, which guides them, and we all need to sort of pay attention to it, especially now, because you look around everywhere, and there are like four screens in this room in which I'm sitting right now.
True.
So you always have something to distract you,
Correct.
to take away your attention. Whereas it's are we really in tune with ourselves today? I know for a fact that not only the physical ailments, like lifestyle diseases, the way we refer to them, but also I know that mental unrest, whether you have depression or anxiety of any kind, is just on the rise, simply because I guess the more we tune out of ourselves, the more we expose ourselves to these sort of things creeping in.
True.
So yeah, I feel like today it's only going to get more and
More
more.
more relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recently actually learned, I was reading an article which I felt was very provocative towards it was based on mental health, specifically targeted at men, by a very well-known media outlet in India. Um, but I felt like this is just, it was making me very angry, because it was making certain assumptions and saying certain things which just were not based in fact. And I was discussing this with someone, and they told me that most of the content that you see around you, that you engage with, that social media is throwing at you, is not designed to have a constructive effect on you. It is designed to either provoke you or draw a reaction from you, because that's how they monetize,
Absolutely.
these things. Even if you hate it, if you comment on it, if you troll it, if you go whatever. So when the world is literally attacking your mental peace in a way, and you're exposing yourself to it, as all of us are, these things become more and more relevant as time moves on. Just a small example, but like I'm sure we encounter these in our
Absolutely.
daily life so many times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you just said be your own light. How have you discovered that during this process of writing? How has it changed you personally, Advait? How do you see yourself moving from here onwards? Do you plan to write more books? Do you plan to do more acting? Or how has this process of writing really changed you, if I may say so, or has
Yeah.
influenced you?
Oh, so to be honest with you, the process of writing this book it's not like I one day woke up and decided to just write a book and then it
Yeah,
got published and it's
I'm
out there
sure.
right now. It's years and years and years. And at some point in time, if I'm very honest with you, I also thought, okay, I've done it. Now, if it gets published, great. If not, okay, I'll just move on to creating something else.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's really given me a lot of respect for anyone who writes a book. Honestly, it's one of the hardest things I've done. And honestly, the work that you guys do at Writersmelon helps writers so much. It's unbelievable. But it's given me a new respect for anyone who creates. It's also well, that is the discipline of writing, of course, because there are days in which you just don't know if what you've written is any good,
Hmm.
or it's either great or it's trash. You have no idea. And very often, I feel like writing this book, and even now when I'm talking about it, this is the blessings basically of a great soul, that on a day where I'm even just talking about it is taking my mind back to the teachings, to a few things, and it's making me in my daily life, less reactive, less
Hmm.
impulsive. Just remembering a few of these things, remembering his teachings, remembering his words, has a positive effect on my state of mind. And I'm sure, like, people, if people feel that way, on a day in which you do something for yourself, perhaps on a day in which you meditate, you do feel different. You do feel a bit more relaxed. So I do feel like it's had a positive influence on me. It's also put my life and journey into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that, yeah, okay, at the end of the day, my problems are not the end of the world. No one's problems are the end of the world.
True.
Um, and just saying that, okay, you know what, I need to, for me, it's been like, okay, I need to slow down. I need to pay more attention to these things, or I need to focus on this. And it's put a few things into perspective, essentially.
Great. So I really,
Sorry, I didn't answer your question about the
absolutely, you did.
education part of it. I
Yes, go
do
for
plan
it.
on acting. That's kind of why I'm in London right now. I'll be shooting for a thriller sort of series here towards the end of the year. So hopefully that will be out early next year. And yeah, it's been fun. I've been doing a lot of theater as well. And I very, very much do plan on writing more books. I've
Okay.
just got to get down to it again, which is, yeah, it's the biggest thing, just the discipline of it.
Absolutely. But I'm very happy that you shared everything that you went through writing this book and how it impacted you. Because sometimes, you can live by example, really, what you say or what you preach, let's say, right? So it's a very good example from Buddha's life himself. So he led the life which he kind of wanted to teach, right? So that way, I feel it's good that we all have, at least me and you, we have been able to read your book. I hope a lot of people read this book, and they find their solace and peace in these lessons, and most importantly, his life itself, right?
Yeah.
So thank
I
you
feel
so
like,
much
he
for
went
doing
through
that.
all of the, oh, that's very kind. Thank you. But I feel like we spoke about going to extremes. The Buddha went to those extremes. Siddharth went to those extremes. So maybe if we just learn from him, we don't have to
To
go
go
to
to
those
the
extremes
extremes.
ourselves. But yeah, that's my takeaway from it, because it's beautiful, the journey that he's led. I think there's something in it for everyone.
Thank you so much, Advait. I wish you all the best. And I hope your book reaches out to more and more people. And wish you all the best for your future projects. Thank you so much for talking
Thank
to me.
you. Thank you very much, Priyanka. Thank you for having me. And I hope that Writers Melon continues to do great work like it
Thank you.
always has. I
Thank
wish you
you.
all
Bye
the best.
bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.